Greetings everyone. Today, me and my group are going to present about the formation of Malaysia. We all know that in terms of geography, Malaysia is a country closer to the equator and it is divided into East Malaysia and West Malaysia. The two parts face each other across the South Sea of China. Also, it is a coastal country adjacent to Thailand and Singapore. Coastal areas are also affected by alternation of the southwest monsoon and the northeast monsoon. Malaysia is also unique in terms of climate. Affected by geological location, there is almost only one season in Malaysia, which is summer. It belongs to a tropical rainforest climate, hot and rainy all year round. Thank you.
The next one is the ethnic culture of Malaysia. The main population of Malaysia is Chinese, Indians, and indigenous people and Malays. So, because of the trade of colonies and so many people from other countries come to Malaysia, and until now they still settle here and marry here, and they get children here. The official language of Malaysia is Malay. Almost all the Malaysians can speak Malay. The second language is English due to the British colonization Malaysia, so they also can speak English. Another two main languages are Chinese and Hindi. The main official religions are Islam. The main religions are Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, and Buddhism, and Taoism. Most of Malays, they believe in the Islam.
Hello, I am Nurun Haifa Sariming. I will talk about Malaysia's National Day. The day commemorates the independence of the Federation of Malaya from British colonial rule in 1957. Malaysia was formed in 1963 when the former British colony of Singapore and the East Malaysian state of Sabah and Sarawak joined the Federation of Malaya. This event is marked by Malaysia Day. Malaysia's Independence Day is celebrated on 31st of August, also known as Merdeka Day.
Hello, my name is Jayanapun Sawat. Today I'm going to present about formation of Malaysia. The Federation of Malaysia was formed following the merger of the Federation of Malaya, Singapore, North Borneo, Sabah, and Sarawak on 16 September 1963. Prime Minister of Malaya, Tunku Abdul Rahman, was the first person who resisted to the idea of Singapore joining Malaysia. He was concerned that the large Chinese community in Singapore would displace the Malays as the majority in federation. So, ultimately, almost 700,000 Borneo natives were brought into federation to prevent a Chinese majority of merger with Singapore. And this is Tunku Abdul Rahman's picture.
And for the merger of Malaysia, on 27 May 1961, the Prime Minister of Malaya, Tunku Abdul Rahman, had made his speech stating his proposal to merge Malaya with Singapore, Borneo of Sabah, Sarawak, and also Brunei. But Brunei had decided to stay away at the end. The factor that influenced Tunku's decision were political and economic purpose, because back then Singapore had a large number of industry and also populations. However, the merger of Singapore and Malaysia fall under difficulties as a result of the political and economic differences between these two countries. Although the leader of two parties has tried to resolve these differences, but it had decided at the end that for Singapore to leave Malaysia. And that's all for my part. Thank you.
Hello, in this part we will talk about Malaysia confrontation, this dispute between Malaysia and Indonesia. After the end of World War II, both Malaya and Indonesia gained national independence by fighting against the colonial sovereign state, but the colonial rule of Western countries in this area hasn't completely ended. After the war, the British economy was deteriorating and had to end its colonial rule in the Southeast Asia. However, in order to retain British power in this region, he firmly grasped the life-saving straw of Malaya and introduced the Malaysia Plan. Indonesia regards it as a new colonial plan to encircle Indonesia, so Indonesia introduced the policy of smashing Malaysia, which became an important international event in the 1960s. Malaysia is composed of Malaya on the Malay Peninsula and eastern Malaysia on the northern part of Borneo, called Kalimantan Island in Indonesia. The so-called Eastern Malaysia refers to the two states located in northern Borneo, Sabah and Sarawak. Back then, around the integration of Eastern Malaysia into Malaysia, Indonesia adopted a confrontational policies that have been deployed for several years against Malaysia. So the key issue place is East Malaysia. Thank you.
The Press of Singapore, the presidential persecution, University declared Singapore independent was article announced on Radio Singapore at 10 a.m. on 9 August 1965. The Tengku Seminary declared judicial separation to the federal parliament and Kuala Lumpur. He next ordained a resolution to enact the Constitution of Malaysia. And interpreter is Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, giving a television press conference on the separation of Singapore from Malaysia.
Recommendation to preventing the war. Firstly, the normal policies recommended by international relations experts and political scientists to prevent war comprise diplomacy and arms control. Next, citizens must always be available to question any reason given for a war, and a clear press in a democracy has to exercise outside alertness in the reporting on this ground. The way to prevent war, then, the public and press must always be available to question presuppositions about the essence of war. The same willingness should happen in regard to the size of militarism and the military budget. Finally, attempts to prevent war must not forget the fact that theoretical differences and unfairness sometimes stimulate determinations to go to war. It might sound quite impractical to say that governments and their citizenships should respect theoretical differences and not be unfair toward people who hold different ideologies or have different ethnic backgrounds or another religions.
Malaysia's nation-building activities have been a remarkable experiment endowed with a widely diverse multiracial community containing a plethora of divergent political beliefs and religious ambitions. The country had to contend with three broad and differentiated ethnic groups after the colonial era, who could be more closely defined, primarily due to tradition, by their position and place in the culture and economy of Malaysia. It is this perception and reaction to a uniquely pluralistic population environment that has acted as the overarching foreign policy ideology of Malaysia. The approach of the country to developing relationships in the region begins from a deep understanding of Asian societies, varied nationalities, religious and cultural essence. Therefore, this report attempts to examine how the perspective of Malaysia came about, how it expressed itself in its foreign policy and in its partners' approach.
Recommendation.
Okay, for the last part, we conclude that around 60 years ago, Malaysia tried to emerge the Federation of Malaya, Singapore, Sabah, and Sarawak in order to unite it together. The factor that influenced the Prime Minister to did that were political and economic purpose, and also the stronghold of communism over Singapore. In the discussion, also mentioned about the birth of Singapore and the confrontation of Indonesia. However, in our recommendation, we refer to international relations expert and political scientists that they propose a normal policy in order to prevent the war, which consists of diplomacy and armed